Nicole Huntsman here from moderncosmic.com. We have got our sun sign compatibility here on this video. If you know what sun sign means, fast forward to the timestamp you see or the description of the video. So in Western astrology, we take the year, the 12 calendar months, okay, and we divide them up according to the Earth's relationship to the sun. And this makes sense if you think back in the day when we were farmers. The movement of the sun, it's actually our movement, the tilt of our Earth relative to the sun and how it affects the seasons was very important. Springtime, time to plant, summertime to take care of and tend the fields, and of course fall time to harvest, and then winter was time to preserve the things that you had stored and make them last till spring again. Now, in astrology, we look at these 4 important dates that are repeatable, they happen every year, and they are the spring equinox, the summer solstice, the fall equinox, and the winter solstice, okay? We have our zodiac signs all set up according to these solar events. In the springtime, when we have our spring equinox, March 21st, this is that time of year when the equator of the Earth is facing the sun, directly, and the Earth is level, so to speak. So, we are on an axis and the Earth tilts. At this point in the year, we're level. That's why you can spin an egg and it will spin. Now, that's the beginning of the zodiac year, and really should be the beginning of our year. It would make sense to have the time when we go from winter, where we have more darkness than light, to the time when it's equal. We have an equal amount of daylight and equal amount of darkness, and then we move into the time of the year, the spring, when we have more light and less darkness each day, okay, until we hit the summer solstice, where we have the most light, more light, and less of the darkness. So with the zodiac, your sun sign falls during a month between those 4 events. So your sun sign is going to fall into one of these segments, okay? We've got the 12 months divided up into 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, according to those solar events. And then in each of those sections, we have 3 zodiac signs, okay? Your sun sign is important in that it shows your general life force. If you think of the sun is the star in our solar system. It is the mass, the giant mass, relative to us anyway, that is holding our solar system together. Without the sun, without our star, we wouldn't be here, and if something happened to our sun, we would all die, we would perish. We eat food that's made from the energy of the sun. We are literally made of sun, which is pretty cool. Someone's sun sign shows you the basic premise upon which their personality is built. It's like a canvas that we're going to paint upon. It doesn't have any paint on it yet, it's just the canvas. Is it wood? Is it metal? Is it canvas? Is it a panel? Is it round? Is it square? How big is it? How little is it? The zodiac sign will sort of illuminate, and it will explain and make granular sort of this very basic part of what we have to work with, okay, with the personality. So it's the first step in building, when you're looking at an astrology birth chart, it's the first thing you look at because you're going to build upon it, all right? And then all the brushstrokes come with the moon and all the angular houses and the planets and the aspects between the planets. That's when it becomes a beautiful picture. But until then, it's just you're one of the 12 zodiac signs. This is very general. Sun signs are general. It's a general vibe. You've got someone who's kind of more of a feeler, someone who's more of a thinker. But there are all different types of feelers and there are all different types of thinkers, okay? We get that granularity by looking at the entire birth chart and by putting the 2 people together, okay? You can have a feeler and a thinker get together and be really happy if they've got other things in their birth chart that make nice compatibility interaspects. If for some reason your sun signs don't get along well, let's say we've got someone who is, let's say we've got a Capricorn and an Aquarius, very different energies. Capricorn's conservative, Aquarius is an iconoclast and does their own thing. On the surface, sun sign wise, these 2 aren't going to jive perfectly. But if you look underneath, maybe they have moons that are both in water, and it gives them an emotional warmth, or it gives them an emotional depth to the cooler Capricorn Aquarius facade. There's another thing you want to look at between your compatibility charts. There are several, but another important primary planetary aspect that you want to look at, or planetary placement, I should say, that you want to look at. And I'm going to talk about this at the end of the video, so stay tuned, watch the compatibility, and at the very end I'll explain to you how to find If your sun compatibility isn't great, there's another thing you can look at that will indicate whether or not the two of you are going to have long-lasting happiness together, or if it's going to be sort of a no-win battle, okay? All right, let's get on to our sun signs, and please leave me comments if you have questions, and this is going to be a lot of fun. Aries. Aries are our people born March 21st to April 19th. This is the first sign in the zodiac. These people are born during the time of the year when we're moving from the wintertime into the spring. So there's a vitality. There is an outgoing movement of energy, just like a plant would be blooming, a tulip would pop up through the soil. That's sort of the same thing that I see with an Aries. They're dynamic, they're outwardly focused, passionate, they need fuel, and they are fighters. Now, Aries also, these are the independent soldiers of the zodiac. They're our protagonists. They're the first person, the individual setting out on this journey of the zodiac. And as you move through the different zodiac signs, you'll see how this journey progresses. Self-starters like Aries, a lot of times they're perfectly comfortable going it alone. They're quite comfortable in leadership roles. They prefer to be in leadership roles. And so partnerships sometimes for Aries can be a little tricky. While they crave it, that's human nature to desire closeness and warmth and affection from other people. Aries sometimes don't always know how to go about getting it. They can be a little bit combative and a little what's the word, scratchy, in their relationships. But overall, these are brave, inspiring, self-starting, innovative, wonderful people that they just require a partner with some patience, and a partner who also is willing to be just as passionate and fiery as they are, but maybe perhaps a little bit more grounded. On the shadow side of Aries, we do have an individual who can be a little self-centered. They can be a little like the fool from the tarot deck, stepping off the cliff while the dog is barking. Don't go that way, They can sometimes be overly optimistic, or they can perhaps, instead of planning, they just want to jump into something and get going, and quite impulsive, okay? They can be a little difficult to teach at times. And they can sometimes lack the emotional tact that is required in love relationships and just general interpersonal relating. But if you have patience with an Aries, they are not the type to hold a grudge. They will usually kind of, they've let it out and then they're good after. So typically they're quite forgiving, and they have this childlike nature to them where it's almost a naivete and an innocence. They don't really mean anything by it. They just sometimes, like I said, they're not necessarily easy to teach, and so they have to kind of do things over and over again until they figure them out. Aries in love. These are individuals, right? They like to make the first move. Aries prefers being the one doing the chasing, at least initially. Even Aries females, with an Aries female, they can sometimes be accused of being too direct or too forward with men. In our culture, at least, I'm here in the United States, in Western culture, traditionally men were the ones who would take that lead role. So female Aries sometimes can be accused of being ball busters or bitches or too brave or too headstrong, or these things. And I say bold to that. I think that Aries we need Aries men and women. These are the ones that are the brave, courageous individuals that will go for something. Now, in love, they need passion. They need passion, they need sex. They're a very physical sign, and they actually need fights, believe it or not. And when I say fights, I don't mean, out and out emotional drama, but they like a little bit of a little bit of a tension or friction in their relationships. They need that. If there was someone who doesn't really push back or lean back against them or was always pleasing them, they'll get annoyed and they'll get bored. And you don't want an annoyed, bored Aries, because you won't have them for long. They will be out of there, okay? Aries expectations in love. Because they're so passionate, they give the passionate spontaneously, freely, just whenever they want to. They're not the most dependable, they're going to do it when they want to do it, unless they have a lot of earth and other things in their chart. And even then, they kind of have to be the boss about when they're going to express their love. You can't really boss an Aries around. They can be this sort of childlike. They can be a little bit selfish, where they want all of their partner's love and attention, but they don't really have a problem with flirting or this kind of thing with other people, and nothing is meant by it. But they they need to have their freedom, but they also need to know that they are number one, that there's no one else in their partner's life. Aries' biggest fear, and this goes for all the zodiac signs, you look at their strength, and that's always tells you where their biggest fear is. With an Aries, you do have a bold, brave, enterprising individual, okay? But on the inside, they're like a little kid. The reason they're bold and brave is because it just doesn't occur to them that there's going to be an issue with them just striking it out and doing their thing and saying what they think. And, you know, they haven't, it's almost like their soul hasn't had enough experience, it hasn't been battered around enough to have sort of learned this lesson. So their biggest fear is actually they're quite vulnerable on the inside. This is like a little kid on the inside, and really what they really want is love, affection, warmth, and belonging. And I suppose it's what most of us want, but because Aries puts on this whole facade of being brave and independent, not needing anyone, you sort of just assume they really are not needing anyone, but that's actually quite incorrect. So anyone who can recognize the innocence in an Aries and can give them their space to be themselves, but also that needs them. The person that is emotionally brave enough to say to an Aries, I need your bravery and courage to keep me safe, to protect me. That is a way to tap into the part of the Aries that, yes, the part that's vulnerable, but they can project that onto you. It's a way for them to protect in an indirect way their own inner vulnerabilities, okay? So it's a little trick. All right, so on to the compatibility. Libra Sun signs are people born between September 23rd and October 22nd. Libra is a Venusian zodiac sign, meaning it's ruled by the planet Venus, the planet that for us symbolizes love and beauty and harmony. Okay, it's harmonizing socially and harmonizing aesthetically, this type of thing. These are the pleasures of life. Now, even if you listen to the sounds, if you've ever had a chance to listen to the NASA sounds of the planets, pretty cool. Like the Venusian, you hear, they took the, I believe it was the electromagnetic spectrum that's around Venus, or that's whatever it's giving off, and they turned it into audible sound waves. And Venus has this beautiful, haunting sound, almost like a siren, or, you know, a mermaid. It's really beautiful. And Saturn has this really spooky, I'll have to post some videos on this, but at any rate, okay. So back to Libra. So with Libra, we've got, not only do we have the zodiac sign that's ruled by Venus, the planet has to do with harmonizing, you've also got the zodiac sign that falls right in the middle of our zodiac of 12 signs. You've got Libra's the 7th sign. So after you've moved through the first 6, which have to do a lot with personal development, you then move into 7 through 12, so Libra all the way through Pisces. These signs have to do with more so with our relating and this sort of energy, this back and forth with these people and the world around us, the wisdom of the world around us. And it starts with this Libran energy. Libra is the partnership. It's the harmonizing. The sign is, you know, the scales, which is fine. I mean, all the air signs are the only zodiac signs that have a human being in each of the, as part of the symbolism, okay? So Libra is this air sign that of all the air signs is the most sort of, it's right in the middle. It's this neutral, I would say even of all of the zodiac signs, there's a neutrality to Libra. And many times when you see Libra placed on the different planets besides the sun, it's hard to see how it's expressed. It can be overwritten by other, you know, zodiac signs that are perhaps stronger. It's like this neutralizing energy that can kind of make everything come together and compromise. It's like the Benjamin Franklin of the zodiac in a way. As far as love goes, you know, this makes Librans are natural peacemakers. They don't really like to fight. It's not that they don't. It's not that they mind conflict so far, or it's not so much that they mind conflict. It's that they want to quickly get to a place of harmony and fairness. They want to have things return to a place of equanimity, balance, where everyone feels like their needs are being taken care of, okay, and no one's being cheated. That's Libras don't like to see things, people being screwed. That brings out their opposite energy, which would be the Aryan side. That's all of us. All of our zodiac signs, our sun signs, hold the polar as well. So that will bring out that desire to fight in a Libra. With a high-functioning Libra, you've got someone who is diplomatic. They are a harmonizer. My kids' personal experience, or personal story, share this. I've got an Aries boy, a Taurus female, a Scorpio female, and a Libra female. Okay, my kids, my son and daughters. My Libra daughter, the youngest, has always been this sweetie. She's like the one that is just like easy and sweet and, you know, on the surface socially has great social manners, even as a pretty little dancer, knows how to pose for pictures. You know, Libra just has this Venusian quality. They've got this beauty to them, or this grace. And even if you've got I know plenty of Libras that aren't physically beautiful per se, but then they've also got this, they'll have this nature to them where they're good at harmonizing, whether it's in conversation or debate. You know, they can sit and have a debate with you, but they can do it in such a way that you feel like you're not sure if you're laughing half the time, or are we debating, or, you know, there's a sociability and a harmonizing nature to Libra. Now, Libra is also, you've got someone artistic, ruled by Venus, artistic in a different way, different from, like, let's say a Taurus, which is also a Venusian zodiac sign. Libra is going to be artistic. It's going to start with an idea. It's going to start with an idea that is in their head, and many times Libra's like conceptual art, or if they were to be someone that liked graphic t-shirts, they would prefer ones that had words on them that conveyed a message, you know, like quotes and things like that. That's Libran. Libras love to read. They love to learn. They are trying to find the common ground in the world. So reading is something that many times is enjoyable for them. There is an androgyny to Libra, which is really interesting. Libran females many times feel, in my mind, all the Libran females that I know, they'll have an external thing that's, you know, feminine. That whether they're beautiful or not, there's a femininity to the way that they express externally. But then you get to know them, and they're quite masculine. There can be a logical nature to the way that they think. They can even be detached in certain situations. They can have this impartiality to them, where they'll look at the situation from a place of ration rather than a place of emotion, and that can be confusing to people because it's different than the way that they sort of appear on the outside. They call Librans, they say they're the iron fist in the velvet glove, and that's true. Librans, it's because of the coolness and the air that's in them. They can detach themselves from outcome, and so this makes them good, like negotiators, good counselors. They're good at getting two people to kind of come together and agree with one another and, like, let's make this work. In my house, when I have the three older kids fighting with each other, it's my fourth, my youngest one, that goes and sits and is reading a book quietly, and it's like, guys, you need to be quiet. You're being really rude. Like, stop fighting. You know, that's a Libra, and so they're uncomfortable with situations where it's when it's irrational, when it's fighting. It's like, this makes no sense. Why are you fighting over this? This is stupid. That's Libra, okay? And then the Libra men, they have more of a feminine quality. I was married to a Libra man, a wonderful man, married to him for 13 years. Has always been, he's a good gift giver. And always, whenever he bought me a pair of shoes or boots, those were the things that all my girlfriends would be like, those are so cute. Where'd you get those? You know, and like, Travis got them for me, you know, of course, you know. And so with Libra men, they'll have many times this pleasant, if they're not straight up attractive, which is very common again for Libras and Venus types, they are charming. They're charming, and they have this little smile to them and this great conversational energy. They love to talk and see what you think about things, and they want to find out about you. And, you know, they can be a little vain. Libra men are known for that. Libra females too, both. They can be a little bit vain and don't enjoy getting older, but they'll fight it tooth and nail. But, you know, for the most part, Librans are, there's a diplomacy, a sweetness, and a kindness there, and they're great lovers. They're great at relationship. They want to find common ground and make things fair. Okay, so with a low-functioning Libra, we've got someone who can be a little too vain. I think they're a little shallow at times, and in their relationships even. Look at that moon. That's really important to take a peek at. Librans, hopefully, if they've got a nice earthy or watery moon, or a moon that's in an earth or a watery house, it's going to give them more depth to their emotions. But they can be truly detached, and even in their romantic relationships, they can be in love with the idea of the relationship and, you know, the surface interaction with this other person, but perhaps lacking a deeper connection, and maybe even having a fantasy life in their head of this ideal lover, sort of like a Virgo in a way, but different. And taking pleasure in that place that's not even real. It's the idea of what love is rather than the actual partner. They can do that. They can be indecisive. That's many times because they're in the middle. The thought is, you know, that they're weighing all options, and they're taking in many options instead of like, okay, let's take action now and move forward. I'm a Libra. I don't necessarily think that that's true. I think that Oh, but I do have an Aries moon, so that's probably why that makes me, I can't stand indecision actually. But but with a Libra, it's like they don't want to step on toes as well. So sometimes they feel when it's like making a decision, it takes them a second because like, if I do that, that might bother this person, or if I do that, it might not be what I want. So they can be indecisive. They can also overly intellectualize their emotions. They can feel sad and not want to feel sad, and so then they'll want to talk about it and discuss it perhaps, but they will want to make it make sense, and they'll want to talk it away. They'll want to rationalize it. They won't really appreciate being seen as someone who is emo or having a moment where they're trapped or swept up in their emotions. That's not a place a Libra really likes to be. That's a place of extreme, right? The Libra wants to be kind of in the middle where they've got it all balanced and they're grounded. It's also, to me, the inner marriage, okay, between the masculine and the feminine is a strong sort of thing to think of when you think of a Libra. That's why you've got the androgyny between the male and female Libras. There's a strong sense of masculine and feminine. They have, if it's a female, she's got a strong anima, masculine part to her, and if it's a male, he's going to have a strong I'm sorry, I just said that backwards. Female would be animus and male would be anima. My bad. So, but their inner masculine and feminine will be healthy and strong. So Libra's in love. Libra in love, this is the sign that rules relationship. Traditionally, it's the seventh house, it's partnership. To me, what's interesting is the seventh house is not a house that is like a smoldering, passionate house. It's a house of compromise and relating and finding harmony and finding balance. And these things are all quite rational and logical and make sense, okay? So Libra in love, first and foremost, they really do want to have a relationship that's peaceful and harmonious and pleasurable. If this is not enjoyable, why are we doing it? That doesn't make any sense to a Libra. If it's not enjoyable, I'm not going to do this anymore. This doesn't work for me. There is, again, that being in love with love. So searching for that elusive true love, and then having to settle with one partner can be difficult for an Aries, as it can be for many of the air signs, just because there's this high degree of sort of overthinking things. And with an Aries, a Libra, they're wanting that ideal thing they have in their head that may not be real. So Libra's expectations in love, again, they have this ideal of what they think partnership should be. They're looking for happiness in love. That is a primary driver of a Libra, would be relationship. Even if you've got a Libra, like John Mayer, for example, he's a Libra, and he's got some really interesting things in his birth chart. But at any rate, he's a great example of a Libra man who is like always in a relationship, but like always in a relationship, like lots of different relationships, right? So it's this, what's that called? The serial monogamist thing can be happening with a Libra. And also, I know he had that issue with pornography that he talked about, and that is the projection of the feminine, the projection of his very strong anima onto these women and objectifying. It's like he's making love to all these nymphs and making love to the divine feminine. That's pornography. So that can happen with Libra. I'm not saying the Librans are porn addicts or anything like that, but what I'm saying is there is this ideal of what the ideal masculine is and what the ideal feminine is. And so the Libra can sometimes just never be satisfied because you will never find someone who embodies all of those traits and characteristics in one entity. So that can be tricky. Just do your best as a partner of a Libra to keep things harmonious and fun. And they need new things to talk about. They love art, they love music. Librans love cultural experiences, museums, history, take them to see things. And they love food, restaurants, nice things. This is a Venusian sign, so they're going to appreciate the finer things in life, but they're quite refined. It's not typically a gaudy appreciation of material objects. It's more the refined appreciation, like a nice painting or a book, an antique book or something like that would be something a Libra would appreciate having in their life. And also these grand gestures, these expressions of romance. A Libra would love if you wrote them a love letter, if you put your thoughts into words or music or songs with lyrics that are meaningful. That's a Libra would appreciate that. So Libra's biggest fear, and I say this as a Libra, twofold. It's quite interesting to be seen as ugly, and this is not just physically ugly. This is ugly in all ways, shape, and form, and to be seen as someone who's not intelligent. To them, that would be sort of the same thing. That would be being intellectually crude. So Libras appreciate harmony and beauty, and they want to be seen as harmonious and beautiful in all ways, not just, again, not just physically or the way that they relate to you personally, but that just as a human being, they want to be seen as a refined version of what it means to be human. And they're Renaissance people. Libras are known because they're in the middle of the zodiac again. They have their feelers kind of in everything. They can relate to all different types of people because they're sort of that neutral energy in the middle. So they're also interested in a lot of different things, and they have a lot of disparate interests. So they feel sometimes just like a Gemini, that same sense of maybe I'm not that deep because I have all these diversive interests instead of being epistemic with something. You know, I'm curious about all these things instead of, just one thing. And, just let the Libra know that they're okay and they're just great the way that they are, and encourage their many interests because it's not going to change. It's just how they're built. And talk to them, have conversation with them about them, and give your Libra a painting. They'll love that. Okay, Aries with Libra. So I know this one well. I'm a Libra with an Aries moon, and I've dated many Aries men. They're the ones, for whatever reason, they also fall in my 8th house, so it's like this magnetic attraction for me anyways. I really like Aries men. Now, anytime you take opposites and you put them together, you have a magnetic energy there. Aries is about the individual, Libra is about the partnership. So you bring these two together, and Aries is, Libra rather, is very cerebral. It's an air sign. So even though Libra is ruled by Venus, which is this goddess of the 5 senses and the pleasures of the world and of life, she's also, or he, Libra is also it's this idealized version. It's this, you're taking these pleasures and the beauties of life and you're putting them into the head. So it's, Libra likes the idea of love many times. Now with Aries can be a little bit too brash, a little bit too disrespectful, a little bit too just aggressive and assertive and insensitive. And the Libra, it's not so much that the Libra will have their feelings hurt, it's just they'll see this behavior and think it's childish, and they'll see it and they'll think that Libra needs, that Aries, you need to grow up. You're acting really immature, you're acting very selfish, and you need to kind of move it up to the next level. All right, long-term interaction between Aries and Libra. These two can make a really good coupling. It's a growth relationship. They both definitely teach each other things. You would certainly want to see some moon compatibility between these two, and some other things to give it some longevity, some nice Saturn contacts, or else it's going to be a relationship where probably most likely the Aries will run from the Libra's desire for coupling, and the Libra will be just sick of the Aries lack of sensitivity, more or less, and so they just kind of will go their separate ways. Okay, specific areas of conflict and harmony. Conflict between these two would be what we sort of already talked about. You've got one person who's interested in what they want, that's Aries, and you've got one person who's more interested in what both people want, the compromise of the partnership. So, hi Jackers. And so, that's a conflict. It's an area for growth where they can teach each other things and learn from one another, but it can be difficult as well. Harmony between these two. This is truly the Mars and Venus combination because these are opposite signs. So you do have a strongly yin-yang thing happening between Aries and Libra. And because Aries is the first sign in the zodiac, it is the primordial man, so to speak, and Libra is the middle of the zodiac. She's right in the middle, and she's ruled by Venus, the goddess of love and beauty. This can be a highly idealized relationship, and it can be one that can be really good. So, and between these two as well, sexually, there's a strong magnetism between Libra and Aries. It's just a natural yin and yang compatibility sexually. So, these two can feed each other, and it can be a really passionate, long-term relationship if pretty much it's if the Aries will grow up a little bit. Sorry, Aries, I don't mean to beat up on you guys. I have an Aries moon, so, but yeah, the Aries just needs to be a little bit more into it actually being a couple for the relationship to last long term. How others will see the coupling, this is going to look like a pretty natural couple. It's going to look like a pair that sort of is meant to be together. There is that masculine, strongly masculine Aries with the more refined Libran, and they just sort of match one another. It's like Mars and Venus, you know, the Mars and Venus, the god and goddess is what the two will look like. So study that myth if you're interested in an Aries Libra